Hi, my name is Michael Hart. I'm the commercial driver's license trainer here at Old Town Trolley in Washington, D.C. This instructional video is designed to help you navigate the process of obtaining your commercial driver's license. All drivers are required to complete a full and thorough pre-trip inspection of the trolley that they bring to the test. The test requires that you inspect numerous items relating to safety and mechanics. What do you say we get started? We're going to start at the back. The pre-trip inspection starts at the rear of the vehicle. It's where the engine is. The first thing we want to do, we want to examine the ground, make sure there aren't any puddles, which might indicate some leaks in the engine. We also want to make sure that the trolley is sitting level, that it's not leaning, which might indicate a problem with the suspension or a problem with the tires. Next, we're going to look at the marker lights up at the top. They need to be red in color. We want to make sure that they're not cracked or damaged in any way. We're also going to inspect the rear brake light. Want to make sure it's red in color, that it's securely mounted, that it's not broken or damaged in any way. Going to check the tag light, make sure that it's present and not damaged. We're going to inspect the turn signals, the brake lights, and the reverse lights, making sure that they're amber, red, and clear in color. We want to inspect them on both sides and make sure that they're not cracked or damaged in any way. We want to inspect the reflectors, making sure that they're red in color. That they're not peeling or damaged. We're going to open the rear door. We're going to inspect the power steering fluid reservoir. We want to make sure that it's securely mounted, that it's not cracked or damaged, that it's not leaking. We also want to inspect the coolant reservoir and make sure that it is also secure and that it's not cracked or damaged or leaking. We want to inspect the caps on both of these and make sure that they are securely tightened, that they're not damaged or broken. We also want to inspect the hoses and make sure that they are securely clamped, that they're not frayed or worn or leaking. We're also going to check the engine oil by removing the dipstick. We're going to pull it out, wipe it clean. We're going to reinsert it and pull it out again and check it for proper level. If the oil needs to be refilled, we would do so through the oil filler cap, which is here. We want to make sure that that cap is not damaged or broken as well. We'll begin the inspection of the engine over here on the driver's side. We're going to open up the panel. Number of things to inspect on this side. We're going to start with the batteries. We want to make sure that they are securely mounted, that the cables connected to them are not frayed or worn, that the posts are free of any excessive corrosion. We're also going to inspect the alternator. We want to make sure that the alternator is securely mounted, that the wires attached to it are securely fastened. We're going to check the water pump. Want to make sure that that is also securely mounted and that it is not leaking. We're going to check the serpentine belt. Want to make sure that that is tight, it's not frayed or worn, and it has less than 3/4 of an inch of play. We're going to check the radiator hoses. Want to make sure that they're not frayed or worn or damaged or leaking. We want to make sure that the clamps that hold it in place are securely fastened. From here, we'll be making our way around to the other side and inspect the other side of the engine. All right, we are going to continue the inspection of the engine on the other side, opening the panel. First thing we want to do is inspect the drive shaft. We want to make sure that that is securely mounted, it's not obstructed, not damaged in any way. We're going to check the exhaust. We want to make sure that it's securely mounted, that it has no obvious signs of damage, no holes, and no rust. We're going to check the power steering pump. Want to make sure it's securely mounted, that all the hoses that are attached to it are securely fastened, that the pump or the hose is not leaking. We're also going to check the air compressor, that it's not damaged, that it's not leaking in any way, that it's securely mounted, and that the hoses are securely fastened and they're not frayed or worn. We're also going to check the main frame, the floor, the side members, the side panels. We want to make sure that they are all in good condition. There are no holes, no rust, no damage that's visible. All right, we're going to make our way to the rear wheels. It should be noted that the rear wheels have been chocked. That's something we normally do when we first arrive at the facility. That'll come into play a little bit later. We're going to start back here with the tires and the wheels. We're going to thump both rear tires. We're going to do that to make sure that they are properly inflated. We also want to inspect the tread, making sure that it is evenly worn. Back here on the rear, the rear tires need to have a minimum of 2/32 of an inch of tread. Retreads are permitted on the back, but they do have to be in good condition. We're also going to check the bud spacing. That's the space between the tires. Want to make sure that the tires aren't touching. We also want to make sure there are no obstructions between the tires. We're going to check the sidewalls of the tires, making sure that there are no cuts, bruises, or damage to the sidewalls. We're going to check the rim itself. Want to make sure that it's not bent or damaged or welded in any way. We're going to check the lug nuts. We want to make sure that all the lug nuts are secure, that they aren't stripped or worn or damaged. We're going to check the rear axle seal, making sure that it's not leaking. We're also going to check the valve stems. There's 2 on the rear. We want to make sure that they are securely mounted, that they're not leaking, and that their caps are present and secure. Next, we're going to check the brakes. We want to inspect the rear brake chambers. We want to make sure that they're securely mounted and that they're not leaking. We want to check the brake hoses that are attached to the chamber, make sure that they're not frayed or worn, that they're not leaking. We're also going to check the slack adjuster. We want to make sure that it is secured at a 90-degree angle. We want to check the push rod, make sure that there's no more than an inch of play when the brakes are released. We're going to check the brake drums and shoes. We want to ensure that they're not worn or damaged or excessively worn. Next, we're going to check the air bellows. We want to make sure that the air bellows is securely mounted and not leaking. We want to check the air bellows control arm. We want to make sure that it is secure, that the bracket and U-bolt that are attached to it are securely mounted. We're going to check the shock absorber. Want to make sure that it is securely mounted and that it is not leaking. Now, normally I would perform a similar inspection on the other side, but today we'll only be looking at the door side and we'll be only inspecting what's different on the driver's side of the vehicle. All right, we're going to perform a similar inspection on the front wheel. We're going to start by thumping the tire. Want to make sure that it's properly inflated. We're also going to check it for even wear. We want to ensure that the tread depth in the front is 4/32 of an inch. Retreads not permitted on front tires. We're also going to inspect the sidewall, making sure that the sidewall isn't cut or damaged or bruised in any way. Checking the rim, making sure that it's not dented or broken, welded in any way. The lug nuts are all secure. They're not damaged or stripped or worn in any way. We're going to check the front hub seal, making sure that it's not leaking. We're going to check the valve stem, make sure that it is secure, that it's not damaged, and that its cap is in place, and that it is not leaking. We're also going to inspect the front air brake chambers. We want to make sure that they are securely mounted, that they are not leaking. We want to inspect the hoses that are attached to it, make sure that they're not frayed or worn or damaged and that they're not leaking. We're going to check the slack adjuster. We want to make sure that it's secure at a 90-degree angle and that the push rod has less than an inch of play when the brakes are released. We're going to check the drums and shoes. We want to make sure that they're not excessively worn or damaged in any way. We're going to start with the suspension. We want to check the leaf springs in the front. We want to make sure that the leaf springs aren't damaged or cracked or shifted in any way. We want to make sure that the leaf spring hangers are securely mounted. We're going to check the air bellows up here, making sure that they're secure, that they're not damaged or leaking. We're also going to check the shock absorber, making sure that it's secure and not leaking. While we're here at the front wheel, we want to check the air tanks that are in the middle of the frame. We want to make sure that they're securely mounted, they're not damaged, that they're not leaking, that all the hoses are securely fastened, that they're not damaged or leaking as well. We'll make our way around to the front. In the front of the trolley, there's a number of things to inspect, similar to the rear. We're going to start up top. We're going to make sure that all the marker lights are secure, that they're not cracked, damaged, or broken. We want to ensure that they are amber in color. We're also going to check all of the windshields, making sure that they're not cracked or pitted or damaged. Want to check the mirrors, making sure the mirrors are all securely mounted, that they are not cracked, damaged, or broken. Want to check them on both sides. We're going to inspect the windshield wipers. We want to make sure that the wipers are properly tensioned, that the blades themselves are not damaged or worn, that there's no debris. Want to make sure that the blades are the wiper arms are securely fastened to the trolley. We're going to check the headlights. We want to make sure they're clear in color, they're securely fastened, that they're not cracked or damaged in any way. We're also going to check the turn signals, the marker lights on the front, making sure that they're amber, not cracked, damaged, or broken. The reflector is also securely fastened to the trolley and not peeling, that they are amber in color as well. We'll proceed around. Again, I would perform similar inspections along the driver's side of the trolley. Today we'll only be looking at what's different. All right, on this side we're going to start with the steering box. The steering box is located all the way up in the front. We want to make sure that it is securely mounted, that it's not leaking. We want to inspect all the arms, rods, and links, making sure that they're all in good condition, not damaged or worn, that they're securely fastened to one another with the nuts, bolts, and cotter pins. We're also going to check the fuel tank, make sure that it is securely mounted, that it is not damaged. We should inspect the mud flaps on all four wheels, making sure that they're not touching the tire, not touching the ground, and that they're securely mounted. We're also going to check the fuel cap. We want to make sure that it's present, that it's not damaged, and that it secures tightly. All that remains on the exterior of the vehicle is to inspect the exterior lights. Generally, the inspectors will assist you with this. In checking the exterior lights, generally the inspectors are helpful. We're going to get aboard. We're going to make sure we fasten our seatbelt before we begin this. We're going to start the engine. First thing we want to do is turn on our headlights. We're going to check the high and low beams. Generally, the inspectors will give us a thumbs up. Next, we want to do the left turn, then the right turn. We also want to check our four-way flashers, and generally, the inspectors will give us a thumbs up. They also inspect our running lights to make sure that they're functioning properly. The reverse lights, the backup lights require assistance. We're also going to ask the inspector to help us inspect the lights that are on the reverse side. All right, once the inspector has reached the back of the vehicle, we're going to manipulate the lights so they can inspect those as well. We're going to start with the left-hand turn, right-hand turn, four-way flashers. We want to step on the brake, want to look for the thumbs up. We're going to put the vehicle into reverse. Again, look for the thumbs up from the inspector. Once they have given you the thumbs up, you want to turn the vehicle off. Turn your lights out. All right, so we're going to inspect the door. We want to make sure that the door is securely mounted on its hinges, that they're in good condition, that all the weather stripping is not frayed or worn or damaged. We want to make sure that the retractable step is secure and not damaged. Want to make sure that the tread is securely fastened, that it's not worn, not damaged. We're going to check the handrails, making sure that they're all securely fastened. As we make our way in, we'll inspect the passenger area of the trolley. We're going to check the floor. We want to make sure that it is free of holes and debris. We're going to check all the seats. We want to make sure that each and every seat is securely mounted, that none of the seats are damaged. Making our way back to the front, we want to make sure that everything overhead is securely mounted, everything is securely fastened. It should be noted that all of the windows serve as emergency exits, as well as the front door. Caution lines, we don't have a standee line on the trolley because we don't allow standing. Continuing, we're going to inspect all of our safety equipment. We're going to begin with our 3 emergency triangles. We want to make sure that they're all here and that they're all in good condition. Next, we're going to inspect the fire extinguisher. We want to make sure that the fire extinguisher is securely mounted, that it's properly rated, dated, properly charged, and that its pin is in place. We're going to inspect the fuse box. We want to make sure that we have spare fuses. Next, we're going to inspect the driver's seat. We want to make sure that it's securely mounted, that it's not damaged in any way. Next, we want to inspect the seat belt. We want to make sure that it's not frayed or damaged, that it secures tightly and it fits snugly. Next, we want to inspect the windshields. On the inside, we want to make sure that they're clean and that they're not obstructed. We also want to inspect all the mirrors, making sure that they're properly adjusted and that they're clean as well. We're going to continue by starting the engine. So we're going to start on our dashboard. We want to inspect our gauges to start. We want to make sure that the voltmeter is functioning properly, that the volts are between 12 and 14 volts. We're going to check the oil pressure. We want to make sure it's between 20 and 50 psi. We want to ensure that we have plenty of fuel for our trip today. We're going to check the transmission temperature, make sure that it's at its optimal range. We're also going to check the water temperature, making sure that it is rising, that it's at its optimal range. It should be between 180 and 220 degrees. Next, we're going to check our primary and secondary air tank gauges. We want to make sure that they're functioning properly, that they are at or around 120 psi. Next, we're going to make sure that our interior dashboard lights illuminate. We also want to check and make sure that the door opens and closes smoothly. We want to make sure that our dome lights, as well as our step light, are operating properly. We're going to check our switches, starting with the driver's fan. We want to make sure that the fan operates, that the defroster is working properly, that the driver's heat functioning properly. We're going to check both the rear and middle passenger heat. Windshield wipers. We want to make sure that the windshield wipers operate smoothly. We also want to make sure that there is fluid, windshield washer fluid in the tank. Next, we're going to check the steering column. We want to make sure that it's secure. We want to check that there's no more than 2 inches of play in the steering wheel. We want to make sure that the horn works. We're going to check our interior lights. We're going to start with the left turn signal. We're going to check the right. We're going to check and make sure that our four-way flashers, that the interior indicators are functioning properly. We're also going to check and make sure that our high and low beam indicator is functioning properly. From here, we're going to continue on. We're going to perform a series of brake checks. First, we're going to start with the parking brake. To check the parking brake, we're going to make sure that the parking brake is applied. We're going to put the vehicle into low gear. We're going to accelerate lightly. The fact that the vehicle doesn't move at all indicates that the parking brake is functioning properly. We're going to return it to neutral. Proceeding, we have several more brake checks. First thing we're going to do is we're going to turn the vehicle off. We're going to return the key to the on position, and we're going to release the parking brake. It should be noted that we have properly chocked the wheels. First thing we're going to do, we're going to check the system for leaks. And the way we're going to do that, we're going to put our foot onto the brake. And we are going to hold it for a full 60 seconds. They'll be timing you, so it's important that you hold it for that full 60 seconds. Now, ideally, we wouldn't lose any air pressure at all, but should there be any leakage, it can't be any greater than 3 psi in that 60-second period. Whatever method you use, you have to make sure it's a full 60 seconds. That's been 60 seconds. We've lost no pressure at all, which would be our goal. The next thing we want to do is we want to check the low air pressure warning alarms. We have both an audible and a visual alarm. At about 75 psi, those should activate. Now the way we're going to get there is we're going to bleed air from the tank. At about 75, we should get both an audible and a visual alarm that indicates that our air pressure has dropped to a low level. Now we're going to continue. We're going to check the spring brake and the parking brake, or the emergency brake. We want to make sure that that engages when the air pressure becomes dangerously low, and that would be at about 60 psi. So we're going to continue to expel air. And the spring brake works properly. Well, that's it. Not nearly as complicated as it might seem. You will have ample opportunity to practice on the trolleys. Couple of things that you might want to keep in mind as you work on this pre-trip. Anything that has metal, we want to make sure that it's not rusted or bent. Anything with rubber, we want to make sure that it's not frayed or worn. Anything with glass or plastic, we want to make sure that it's not damaged, that it's not cracked or broken. We always want to make sure that everything is secure. Anything with air, anything with water, we want to qualify that it is not leaking. I look forward to working with each and every one of you. If not me, someone else will help you become a fully certified conductor here at Washington, D.C.'s Old Town Trolley.